there's an opportunity for a win, but it's at Tennessee, a place where they traditionally don't play well. They have the Pittsburgh Steelers at home. I'll give them the emotion of being at home. That makes them 1-4. Jacksonville with their spiffy new quarterback at Jacksonville. They didn't have that quarterback last year. Chad Henne beat them last year. They'll beat them again. Oakland and in Cleveland, I'll give them the win based on Matt Schaub is not a very good quarterback unless David Carr is in and he's got something. I'll give them that win. That gives them 2. Tampa Bay, that's an L. Defense, no matter who's the quarterback, whether it's McCown or whether it's Glennon, I think Lovie Smith's system, the defensive personnel, and the budding offensive personnel gives the Buccaneers the edge. And, of course, the last time the Browns met the Buccaneers got the better of them. I would say Tampa Bay wins that one at home here in Cleveland. Then they go to Cincinnati. I'll give them an L. Cincinnati has too much talent on both sides of the ball. Superior coaching. I think Cincinnati gets the better of them. They come home, play the Houston Texans, a team that we talked about on the rebound. I'll give them a L on that one. They go to Atlanta, L. Matty Ryan, Julio Jones, Roddy White, a decent running game, a loud environment. I'll give them an L there. At Buffalo, I'll give them a W there. I don't think the E.J. Manuel experiment is going as planned, and I think they will have petered out in the final, coming into the final quarter of the season. I'll give the Browns a win there. Colts home, and the Colts at home, I'll give them an L there. Andrew Luck, too much. I think if he's healthy, Trent Richardson, I have a little something to prove, a little emotion on his side. I'll give them an L there. Against the Bengals at home, I give them a shot to win, but I think they may get overpowered there. The season is winding down, and if they don't have offensive capabilities, again, to keep teams off of them, to keep their defense rested, unless they convert to a running team primarily. Now, if they do that early in the season or off rip, I think they could be a factor in that they'll control and lock the flow of every game with their running attack. And by the way, the 3 running backs they kept are going to be tremendous working in concert. I'm talking about Tate, West, and Isaiah Crowell, who I've loved since he was a freshman at Georgia. I told these guys about him 4 years ago. I think he's going to be a guy who can be an integral part of this offense, provided they decide to run the football. If they don't, if they come out and try to play toe-to-toe with the Bengals, that's an L. The Panthers at Carolina, going against Cam Newton, who can do everything. I think he's got the best tools in the National Football League at a quarterback. The question is whether he rises to the level of leadership and drags the Panthers, who are, shall we say, suffering from the wrong type of motivation. Because if I was the Panthers, there would be 2 things I would get, period. I would get the best offensive line possible. I would spend money on the O-line to keep my beautiful, young, powerful quarterback upright and healthy. The second thing is I would provide him with the best targets that money could buy. I would not have let Steve Smith go. If he could play, he's playing for me. So those are things that they did not do, and that could come back and bite them in the butt, and especially late in the season. But I don't think the Browns will have enough to overcome what they do have. Kelvin Benjamin is looking good. Greg Olsen is a monster. To the practice squad, maybe he'll get it together and provide Cam a target. Maybe the offensive line will get a little bit better, especially on the left side at tackle. And maybe Cam Newton can marshal the Panthers to another season like he did last year. But Ted Ginn is missing, and so is Steve Smith. I would say it will be a close game, but I'll give them an L based on being in Carolina. And finally, at the Baltimore Ravens, my guess is the Ravens will have something to play for unless injury and attrition drag them down. So when you add it all together, you've got another 3-13 season and another top 5 draft choice, maybe top draft choice for the Cleveland Browns. And if that comes to pass, and if they end up with the first pick, and if Jameis Winston comes out in the draft, I would be very hard-pressed not to take Jameis Winston overall number 1. And then back that up with Todd Gurley somewhere in the draft. I think the odds of that happening are better than we'd like to believe. I think the Browns are a team in transition from not having a direction, from not having a plan, to not having a style of football, but they can convert me and all of you if the Browns come out and say, this is Cleveland Browns football. Let's go to the run, let's mash them, let's run them over, let's make the pass more opportunistic at points in the game. If they do that, I think the Browns will be better than the 3-13 I project for them. And, of course, I'd love to be wrong. I'd love to turn that around to 13-3. I just don't think it'll happen.
And I'll tell you what, if that plays out the way you see it, and the way I'm looking at perhaps things going for Buffalo, that could be potentially 2 top 5, top 10 picks there at the beginning of next year's draft. But I can't look that far ahead. I got to stay at Pittsburgh. See, is why I try not to go and look through the whole season. I got to take it 1 week at a time, because otherwise you end up at 3-13 sometimes. So I'm looking at Pittsburgh.
Let's look at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has major motivation to start fast and not end up an 8-8 team that they've been the past 2 years. That's not acceptable in Pittsburgh. That's not acceptable for Mike Tomlin. So I see them coming out fast with a new offense, with Gree Archer, a significant weapon that they did not have. Now, the question is whether Le'Veon Bell and Blunt will play on Sunday. No indication that they would not play. They've got a budding young star receiver in Derek Moy. They've got Antonio Brown. They've got Heath Miller. They've got a young veteran offensive line led by Pouncey. They've got one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, a 2-time Super Bowl winner, and they retooled on defense with some young Buckeyes, some young Georgia Bulldogs, the typical killer linebackers of the Steelers. They've gotten some youth in their secondary to go with Troy Polamalu, Ike Taylor, and some of their veterans. Mike Mitchell is a star on the make. Their special teams are solid. Their coaching is solid. I'm going to have to give this one to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think the Browns can play well in Hines, but they've only won one game in Hines, and they're 5-25 against the Steelers in their renaissance. So I would say this is the best team that Cleveland has taken to Pittsburgh. But what does that mean when relatively they're just a shadow of the Pittsburgh Steelers? So I would have to give this one to the Steelers, probably by I'll give them 23-13 score.
I'll tell you what, I'm with the one statement that you said is really where I'm at. The thing that changes perhaps some of all of this is if they establish a style, if they establish something and say this is the type of football we're going to play and they get to it, then that changes the outlook of things. And, of course, we'll have a much clearer picture once we see them get it underway there in Pittsburgh. Like you said, only 5 wins since the rebirth of the franchise. I saw Dante Whitner talking after practice, and he's right around in the same age as I am, and so I have the same frame of reference as him. He's like, man, when I was growing up, the Browns were smacking the Steelers around. They were like, I think it was like 10-2 or 10-3 during his childhood. I'm like, yeah, that's what it was like when I grew up too. And then my son here, he's like, man, I don't recall seeing the Browns beat the Steelers very often, because he hasn't seen it, because they've done nothing but spank that Browns butt since '99.
Yeah, That's how it was. And I would say that in my childhood, the Browns never lost to the Steelers. In my teens, the Steelers never lost to the Browns. So it's gone. It's kind of gone.
You've been up and down.
yeah, it's kind of gone in cycles. Maybe a new cycle will be instituted.
Well, there we go. We'll find out. It all starts Sunday for the Browns. It starts tonight for the NFL with Green Bay and Seattle. That's going to be a great game to kick things off. Kendall?
If CBS is back on.
Oh, yeah.
Remember, CBS is off.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. You're right.
They're in a battle with the cable cable providers and DirecTV. So it ought to be interesting. And I have DirecTV. Because I can't be pinned down to watching Cleveland Browns football because there's really nothing to see. There hasn't been anything different to see. If I got a Cleveland Browns game from the last 15 years, I got them all. So it'll be very interesting. I'm hoping that the game is on.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that later, too, with the television thing. Kendall, enjoy the slate of football, college and pro this weekend. We'll catch up Thursday and talk about some Week 1 catching up and look ahead to Week 2.
All right, J-Rock, you guys take care here.
You too, my man, Kendall Lewis, and you guys can tweet with him at the BSK Says on Twitter, at the BSK Says. Here comes the break. Here comes the news. Here comes Mike Brandenberry. Some Indians fever, baby. Did the Tribe win last night? Yes, they did. That Team O Destiny rolls on. Talking to Mike Brandenberry from didthetribewinlastnight.com. Coming up next after the news here on the Sports Fix.
We here at the Sports Fix want to make all of your dreams come true.
What about my dream?
Edith, I told you I can't build your candy house. It will fall down. The sun will melt the candy. It won't work.
It will if it never rains.
Oh, maybe not all of them. Get your fix on the Sports Fix.
This is head coach Gary Waters at Cleveland State, and you're listening to the Sports Fix.
Whether it's an oil change or a new set of tires, Quick Lane at Valley Ford Truck has you covered for your automotive car care needs. They're your neighborhood quick service experts. They also offer a low price tire guarantee. Choose from 13 brands, and if you find the same tires at a lower price within 30 days, Quick Lane at Valley Ford will refund the difference. They're open late Monday through Thursday until 9 p.m. and open early Saturday so you can check it off your to-do list and get on with your day. They also have a newly remodeled service lounge and additional service bay just for Quick Lane oil changes. Quick Lane at Valley Ford Truck is located at 5715 Canal Road, right under the 480 bridge in Valley View, just down the road from Independence. 5715 Canal Road, right under the 480 bridge in Valley View, just down the road from Independence. Come see why life is better in the Quick Lane. QuickLane.com/Valley Ford Truck. That's QuickLane.com/Valley Ford Truck.
Business owners and professionals, do you want to take your business, your product, your team, your event to the next level? You want to advertise right here with the Sports Fix. Our listeners are among the most loyal listeners, terrestrial or internet. The Sports Fix universe is not only the radio show, but tens of thousands of fans on Facebook and Twitter. Email me, Jerry Myers, thesportsfix@AOL.com. That's thesportsfix@AOL.com. And let me help you swing for the fences and hit it out of the park right here on the Sports Fix.
The Sports Fix is now available every day on the world's largest internet radio service, iHeartRadio. Download the free iHeartRadio app, subscribe to the show, and get your fix.
News break.
Good morning, I'm Bob Picozzi. It's a sobering stat for defending champs. None of the last 8 Super Bowl winners managed to win a single playoff game the following season. Seattle hopes to avoid that fate. The Seahawks open the NFL season tonight at home against Green Bay. It will be the 3rd season in the league for Seattle quarterback Russell Wilson.
My goal is to facilitate the ball with the right guy at the right time. And I'm getting so quick on my reads. I'm reading the coverages so quickly and protections and all that. I've really grown a lot, and I continue to do that. And that's my biggest goal, is just to continue to progress from week to week.
In his 2nd season a year ago, Wilson had 26 touchdown passes and only 9 interceptions. San Antonio city manager Cheryl Scully says officials in that city are still in conversations with the Raiders about potentially relocating to San Antonio, thinking that a financial deal for a new stadium have been worked out in Oakland. Dodgers manager Don Mattingly says it's very unlikely that pitcher Josh Beckett will return this season. He's been on the disabled list since August 8th with a hip impingement. The U.S. concludes group play today at the